Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call our meeting to order. Before we approve the agenda, though, just want to point out that the fire exits are in the back of the room, and there is also one behind us to the left. So in the case of emergency, please file out calmly. I do need a motion to approve the agenda for our meeting. Jan?
Second.
Oh, Nicole? All in favor? Aye. And we have two fun, exciting things before we kick into our very fun business meeting as well. But we did want to take some time to recognize and thank our PTA board. So we're actually going to have two of our board members talk, and then we will move on to our Winter Scholar athletes. So Lisa, if you don't mind coming up to the podium.
Okay, my name is Lisa Christensen. I'm really excited to be able to express appreciation and recognize our amazing PTA board members who are here tonight and those who weren't able to make it. As a former PTA board member myself, I know the time, effort, and sacrifice that you put in. I know that it's technically PTSA, I think, but we will always call it PTA in my family because my kids like to say that it stands for Parents Talk a Lot. And this comes from them witnessing hours of PTA meetings and conversations, and I'm sure your children can relate. The sacrifice that you put in and the time. And it takes a lot of talking, among other things, to accomplish the long list of things that you do. I feel like I need to turn this way. So just some of those things on that list would include book fairs, free books for students, literacy programs and readathons, book vending machines, playground enhancements, PE equipment, author visits, science carts, sensory rooms and sensory paths, teacher appreciation events, staff shirts, classroom supplies, room parent programs, hosting large events for families and students, student celebrations like senior bash, 5th grade finale, 8th grade graduation, classroom events or grade level events like Colonial Days and International Day, STEAM nights, movie night at the rec center, scholarships, college night support, yearbook scholarships, school pictures. It just goes on. And I know if you were to ask any of my kids at my house, some of their very favorite memories or most of their favorite memories from their years in Fairport School District are on that list. And I came across this quote that made me think of all of you. It's by Marjorie Moore. She said, "Volunteering is the ultimate exercise in democracy. You vote in elections once a year, but when you volunteer, you vote every day about the kind of community you want to live in." And the work that you do as PTSA members makes Fairport Schools the kind of community that we want to live in and that we want our students to learn in. And I just wanted to let you know that you are seen and noticed and so impactful in our community. So thank you. So we have some certificates for you. I know we don't have everyone here. We are going to read everyone's name by school, but if one representative or whoever is here from that school would come up and just take all the certificates for your board and then hopefully deliver them. So anyone who is here from JA, if you could come up and get your certificate while I read these names. We have Stephanie Evans, Eric Spoth, and Sheila, Schwally Spoth. Elizabeth, I should have looked at this list ahead of time and asked for pronunciations. I apologize. Elizabeth Ebert, Kristen Weeks, Danielle Arnold. I guess clap after each school. If you're here representing Dudley, if you could come up. President Megan Condello, Vice President Lindsay Wright, Treasurer Jen Haskins, and Secretary Stacy Young. Representatives from Northside could come up. President Heather Wensley, Vice President Angie Torres, Treasurer Heather Little, and Secretary Candy Carr. Representatives from Brooks Hill, if you want to come up. We have co-presidents Rachel Rayburn and Lindsay Schwartz, Vice President Elizabeth Brandt, Treasurer Rachel Wiesner, and Secretary Ellen Fiordaliso. Okay, great, thank you. I'm too separated from my Brooks Hill days when I can't pronounce all the board members' names. Okay, Martha Brown, if your representatives could come up. We have President Adrian Schley, Vice President Megan Kenny, Treasurer Tanya Duggan, and Secretary Michelle Gallinger. Right here. Representatives from Joanna Perrin. We have President Ann Mahan. On? I'm Shane. Oh, I'm sorry. Vice President Katie Sturm, Treasurer Donna DeMaria, and Secretary Shane Watterson. And from Minerva DeLand and Fairport High School, President Penny Dunn, Vice President Diana Cook, Secretary Julie Sherman, and Treasurer Sean Carr. And then we have a special recognition tonight too, and I'm going to turn the time over to Brian Moritz to present that.
Your phone.
Oh, I don't have notes.
So it is with a lot of excitement that I get to announce and present a special board recognition to Sonia Varello. Please tell me I pronounced your name right. Yes. All right. So if you're in PTA or PTSA in and around Fairport, you know Sonia, right? She's been an active officer since 2012, so more than 10 years that she's been not just active in the PTA and PTSA, but at the officer level. She's been the president of the PTA and PTSAs at Dudley, Northside, Martha Brown, and the treasurer at Northside, Martha Brown, and Fairport High School. She's also been an active regional leader through the Genesee Valley region, which is our state region. It encompasses a whole huge geographic swath. And she's been she was 3 years as regional director as that, and currently she is serving as the treasurer for New York State's PTA. She's been a valuable source of support and leadership for all of us who have been served in school PTAs. I know I speak for Candy, I speak for Angie, I speak for Sarah, I speak for anybody who was at Northside, who we wouldn't have survived without Sonia telling us how to run a ship and how to do it well. And most importantly, this is a recognition of her selflessly giving her time and her talents to support our schools, our teachers, our administrative team, and most importantly, all of our kids. So Sonia, I'd like to come down and on behalf of the board, present you with a special recognition for the work you've done.
Penny misses you desperately, but she's doing wonderful at Dudley.
And I just want to thank everyone that came out tonight. I know it's a busy time of the year with all of our kids doing lots of different things. So can we just give all of our PTA folks another round of applause? Thank you. You are appreciated. Okay, so up next.
Yeah, if you could dismiss yourself if you would like to do so at this point in time. You're welcome to stay. We're celebrating some Scholar athletes, which
But
is
we've
great,
only seen so much
but I
sun
also,
so far this year,
know
so.
that you guys are.
But thank you all.
Peter.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you so much.
No, it's totally fine if you guys need to exit. So up next, we are going to recognize our 2023-24 Winter Scholar Athletes. So we're going to have Mr. Fritz Killian come on down.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It really gives me great pleasure and a privilege to recognize our winter
scholar athletes. How's this determined? At the end of each sports season, the State Public Athletic Association, they're going to honor our teams and individuals that excel in the classroom. And in order to achieve a team scholar athlete status, you have to have 75% of your roster, they have to have a GPA of 90% or greater within a team. There's also a mechanism where individuals can also receive individual scholar athlete status if their team does not qualify. And this winter, we had 11 out of our 14 teams qualify for scholar athlete status. We had 3 teams that did not achieve that, but we did have representation from those teams. First up, looks like we have the wrong PowerPoint that is up there right now. That's from the fall. I've got the winter in my hand, but okay. Perfect. All right. First team, boys alpine ski, coached by Chris Barker. And you can see that we had multiple all-county recognitions and also some sectional qualifiers, and we had 2 state qualifiers on the boys team. Really proud of them. All of our ski teams, especially with the lack of snow that we had. So congratulations to our boys under the direction of Chris Barker. Chris is also our girls alpine ski team, and as you can see, we had scholar athlete recognition on the team, as well as Sophia, who was a first team all-county sectional qualifier, and she also went to the state meet. So congratulations to our alpine ski team. Next up is boys basketball.
Mr. Kelly, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I know 92.5, was that what their GPA was, I believe?
Their
The boys?
GPA.
I know you wanted to bring that in there, so
Yep, I've got that
thank you.
last, but yeah, our boys alpine ski team, they had an average of 92.5, and our girls alpine had an average of 91.85. Boys basketball is next. We did have 2 Division I all-county first team players, and the team was also a Division I champion, and they also made it to the semifinals within the Class AAA Section 5 tournament. Really proud of this group. Congratulations to them as they achieved Winter Scholar Athlete status under the direction of Coach Fitch. Next, we had girls basketball, and they won the AAA tournament. That was the first girls basketball championship since 2010 under the direction of Tom Vasey, a first-year coach for us in Fairport. And you can see they had numerous athletic accolades, with Jada Crocker being the Section 5 championship team MVP, and other all-tournament team members, and they advanced to the Western Regionals, where they fell short to Lancaster, but just a fantastic season for our girls program. Next, we have the boys bowling, and that is co-coached by Jamie Maskley and Rob Wrights, and you can see we had numerous all-county representation. We also had Braden Maskley. He advanced to the state tournament based on his average and performance throughout the season. So congratulations to them. Our girls bowling team, we had individual Scholar Athlete Award winners in Anna and Raina, and they were the Monroe County champions within their division, and they were also Section 5 Class A champions, and within their performance, they participated in the state championships in Syracuse, and really, really proud of this group. Congratulations to them. Our winter cheerleading team, under the direction of Elaine McGurk, they were Monroe County Division I champions. This was the competitive season versus the fall, which was the game day. And we had multiple all-county picks within that group. Congratulations to our winter cheerleaders. Next was boys ice hockey, and you can see the individual Scholar Athlete Award winners, and also our all-county nomination with Mark Hillier, and they had a wonderful season, much improved from last year, and we're only looking forward to bigger and better things for the 24-25 season. Congratulations to ice hockey. Our boys indoor track team that was coached by Ben Bulkley and Christy Moore, You can see the large roster of that team and the Scholar Athlete qualifiers and all of the recognition that they had in terms of all county champions, state qualifiers, Section 5 champions. Just a fantastic season for our boys indoor track program. Next up was the girls, also coached by Ben Bulkley and Christy Moore. And again, they had numerous representation that achieved Scholar Athlete status. And they also had multiple student athletes with all county recognition, Section 5 champions, participation at the state meet. Just a wonderful winter season for our girls indoor track program. Congratulations. Our boys Nordic ski team, that's coached by Tony Kerr. Congratulations to the participants and also to Will Dezek, who was a second team all-county athlete within Nordic. We also had Tony Kerr coach our girls Nordic team, and you can see the student athletes that achieved that Scholar Athlete status. Amazing for them, especially with the lack of snow. Had to do a lot of dry land training, a lot of trips to Bristol, and really proud of this group and also all of our Nordic ski teams that really helped get Bristol Mountain ready for the Section 5 championships. On to boys swimming and diving, coached by Mike Kennedy. Another outstanding job by Mike and his staff, and you can see the numerous county champions, all county picks, and congrats to Jake Thompson, who represented us in the state championship meet in Ithaca in March. On to wrestling, coached by Bob Arau. Our team was a Division I county champion, and we had numerous all-county picks and numerous Section 5 Class A champions, as well as multiple student athletes going to the state championship meet. And then to the right, you can see the individual Scholar Athlete Award winners. Congratulations to our wrestlers, coached by Bob Arau. Just moving down the line, boys varsity basketball, they had a grade point average of 91.84. Girls varsity basketball, 92.61. Varsity bowling for our boys, 92.16. Winter cheer, 94.77. Boys indoor track was 92.52. Girls varsity indoor track, 95.72. Nordic ski for our boys was 94.51. Girls varsity Nordic ski was 96.22, and boys swimming and diving 93.77. Pretty impressive if you think about the dedication and the time that it's taking for their practices, because with our facilities, we're no different than any other high school. You only have a certain amount of gyms, you have a lot of teams, so they're constantly rotating between who's going to get the early shift, the late shift, and a lot of these contests are played at night. And a lot of our sports, they're going to be going to different facilities where there's a lot of travel involved. So I really want to extend my appreciation for our student athletes for their dedication, our coaches for all the work that they're doing, and also the families for their support. There's a lot of planning that has to take place in terms of transportation and having dinners and showing support for homework. So really want to thank everybody for that. It was a successful winter, and thank you to the support of our Board of Education. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we would have public comments, but we actually don't have any tonight, so we will move on to the communications portion of our meeting, and we're going to have our school student advisor report. So Clara Valentine.
Hi guys, it's great to see you all again. Do you want to hear a joke? Why did the nurse need a red pen at work? And if I've repeated it, you can tell me. I tell like 100 jokes. In case you need to draw blood. Anyway, on to the update. In the past month at FHS, our third quarter ended last Friday, and our teachers have worked very hard to get all their grades in by today so they can be available to students this Friday so they can assess their performances. Additionally, the District Art Show opened up last Thursday at Parrington Square Mall. We have over 10 artists' work on display, and the exhibit will be open until April 25th, in case any of you guys would like to stop by. For weeks leading up to the solar eclipse, NASA Club was giving out information on the announcements, as well as holding presentations here in this room, 512, to teach students and faculty about the safety needed to enjoy the experience. Also, 6 FHS students that were highly successful in math team this year recently competed in the New York State Championship as part of Monroe County's team and cohesively worked with students from other schools to take home the title of 3rd place in the state. Also, the opportunity to apply to be the 2024 student graduation speaker just came out, and students are working on their applications to send in to the graduation speaker committee. I'm sure it will be a tough choice, but I'm so excited to hear the speech from one of my fellow classmates. Students involved in music also hosted an incredible coffeehouse concert in the cafeteria last Friday. From vocal to instrumental performances, there was so much talent. The ticket contributions went a long way, as all the profits from this fantastic fundraiser supported the music programs here at FHS. In other news, Dollars for Scholars awards were sent out to recipients, and the committee is fortunate enough to have been able to award 80% of the seniors who applied with at least one scholarship. In the coming months, students are writing thank you notes to the sponsors of their awards and will be represented in the Dollars for Scholars award ceremony on May 30th. There is also a downstage comedy performance this Thursday, and hilarious flyers have been hung up around the school, accompanied by teasers on the morning announcements for this highly anticipated monthly show. I might be their biggest fan, and I can't wait to see what they have been preparing. And coming up in May, we have AP exams. Super fun. This upcoming 2-week testing period has had many students studying their hardest, and we can't wait to see all their hard work pay off and the weight finally lifted off their shoulders. That's all I have.
Thank you. And before I move on to my brief president's report, I was just going to let folks know, yes, if you want to leave, you are more than welcome to. One more announcement.
And then that's it.
And then I'm not going to stop again.
No judgment if you leave. If you stay.
Then we budget.
You can leave later too. Yeah, it is nice out and it's not torrentially raining, so
We don't get that.
No judgment.
not at all. Okay, so I'm going to be brief because I think Clara always does a wonderful job, but I did just want to recognize a few things that have happened since we last met. The school board had the opportunity to visit a variety of buildings since last time we met, which was exciting. Prior to this meeting, we did talk about our experiences, so if you want to hear all about it, you can take a look at our workshop, but just wanted to thank Buildings and Grounds, our tech department, Minerva DeLand, Joanna Perrin, and Jefferson Ave for hosting us since we last met. And we really enjoyed learning from not only the staff, the administrators, but the students as well. So great experience. We also had a spring break, which was concluded with the eclipse. So I'm hoping that everybody did have the experience, was able to be outside, even though we didn't have the best weather that we could have had. I did think the dimming of light was pretty darn cool, and I enjoyed it with lots of neighbors and students from the school, so it was lovely. Our spring sports are now in full swing. Brett and lots of our board members were actually here yesterday for a variety of reasons, but just to highlight the fact that we had multiple sporting events happening, sporting practices, a huge chorus concert with 200 students, I think plus, that I've heard was amazing. I couldn't be there. But just that appreciation of all the things that are happening this year and in the spring and more to come. Just one more thing, I did want to thank Brett and his team for putting on the series Under the Trunk, where they went through. Under the hood. Hood. It's a car. Oh dear. Yeah, I'm thinking of Under the Hood. the budget discussion that was open for our community members. And I hope people will take advantage if they do it again next year, because I think it was a forum where the community was able to ask questions and get some responses that they may not normally have had the opportunity when we talk about the budget that we'll be approving today in our business meeting. So thank you. And hood. Definitely tired. Okay, so I'm going to pass it on to Mr. Provenzano for our superintendent report.
I definitely have a brief report, and you really can't top what Claire did and what Mr. Killian did, but just to sort of capture the essence, it's amazing. 11 of our 14 teams achieved Scholar Athletic status. That's a 93.45% average, all these teams. Striving for academic excellence and also interscholastic sports, amazing representation. 510 total athletes for out of 32 winter teams. That's participation. And again, we're talking about the budget tonight, and that's part of that. And I know the board knows that there's incredible value. Just like President Bellis Pacer was speaking to the fact of the girls JV and varsity lacrosse team last night. Boys and girls, boys baseball, girls softball. The tennis courts were even being used. And Martha Brown had an amazing, celebrating the performing arts. And if you take a look at the art show, I know Claire talked about that. It is powerful representation of student creativity. It speaks to our amazing program. We have electives that are embedded into our budget. That at the high school, it's a culminating opportunity for our students to express their talents, and just great pride. I was fortunate enough to get some tours and insights into student work, and I also got my Girl Scout cookies. Right? Very, very important. The family was waiting for them with bated breath. So. There is value in our schools, and one of the bright spots as we celebrate our schools and our community are the people that have deep insights into the value and wonderful things that occur and what it means to our community. Again, as we're building a budget and presenting a budget to the Board of Education, that's being played out every single day. So I think we're going to queue up a bright spot next. Investing in our future-ready Raiders. There was volume.
I think the biggest thing and the greatest thing about Fairport schools is just the feeling of family. From students walking or biking into school every day, to greeting families at the door as they, pass their child on to us for the school day. It's just a really big community that feels like a really small family.
Well, I am a resident of Fairport. I've been in Fairport for 7 years now. And you can't really explain it unless you experience it here, and I think people are drawn to that experience. And I think what's prominent around the community is people talk about, well, my taxes are so high for school taxes. Well, I can tell you what you gain from that, not only locally, but across the country, is incredible. Recently I was in Detroit, and prior to that I was in Niagara Falls, and I always wear something with Fairport on it because of my pride in Fairport as well. And someone always comes up to me every single time and says, I'm from Fairport too, or I was a Fairport grad, and that's the only time I've ever experienced that is when I'm out and about, and then you get to really see the value of what we produce here in Fairport and how it's impacting the entire nation.
Our 8 buildings are the heartbeat of our community. Throughout the different buildings, you will find events happening that celebrate the talents of our students. And those events draw our community out. Our community shows up to support our students, and I think that's something that we really enjoy and something that sets Fairport apart.
it starts at the school. It starts at the school with the administration, with the quality of teachers, with the quality of those committed to providing a quality education to those that are in the community, and it bears itself out in the end in an incredibly positive and robust community that really enjoys being part of that Fairport experience.
From the moment you step into any of our buildings, we want students and their families to feel that they belong and know that from the moment you engage with our staff, know that you're going to have a team who's cheering for your child and wants great things to happen for your child. And we'll be cheering for them all the way through until we see them cross that stage as a senior.
Take everything that you have learned from every classroom, to every playing field, stage, and event, and go out and give it back to the world. Thank you, Lindsay Reddick, for an amazing bright spot, again, that showcases the Raider spirit and what our schools mean to our community. Thank you. I think we have one of our featured stars in the audience over here, Aaron Moretter. No one could speak better about Fairport and the school's value than you, so thank you. Thank you to our Board of Education for bringing it to reality and letting us have the opportunity to fulfill a vision that means so much, not just to our students, staff, but our greater community. You'll see up here that there are formally 12 interactions to discuss budget. And I think the expectation from the Board of Education is that we continually talk about budget, and it's just not a one-time event. We will continue to build upon getting people involved and getting our message out and going under the hood and expressing the value of our schools in many different ways. So tonight is a very important part of our budget process, and as you see, it started in July, and we're here in April. I'll be recommending a budget for the board to adopt for the 24-25 school year, and I look forward to sharing that in a little bit. Thank you so much for giving me the honor to be superintendent of schools.
Thanks. Which brings us to our board committee reports. So I'm looking to see, does anybody have anything they want to share out from their committees? I know we haven't had a whole lot since our last meeting, so I'm guessing no, but just want to put the opportunity out there. We're good? Okay. So next
Hey, Erica, can I just real quick, not from a committee, but following up on last meeting, the robotics team is on their way tonight and early tomorrow morning in 2 different delegations to Houston. So just wanted to report that.
Congratulations, robotics.
Thanks, Lisa. Okay. So next we have our treasurer and investment.
Wait. Shout out Odyssey of the Mind. I know it didn't make any of the reports, but Odyssey of the Mind has one team going to
We have two, yes.
2 teams going to Worlds, but and a bunch of other teams that participated and did great, and just continues to be just an incredible bright spot for us in Fairport here.
So I would also say it's appropriate that our parents support Odyssey of the Mind completely, and we appreciate the value that it brings. And we do celebrate and honor our parents who, lots of time, lots of investment.
Yes.
Thank you.
Lots of saved scraps of creative in basements. Yes, in basements to build things.
But yeah, and I think Lindsay posted some things about the weekend for our Odyssey teams that went to the New York State competitions, and then we do have 2 that will be moving on to Worlds in Iowa.
Well, since we're giving accolades, right, we'd have to say the NASA Hunch program. They're heading to Texas as well. These stellar students, I think it's a national competition. Their work, the artifacts that they create, they've been working on all year long. I mean, we're one of the only few schools in this area. We have 2 dedicated staff to support these students, a multidisciplinary activity. Again, they're going to the space shuttle, right? And they're going to have their actual artifacts on the space shuttle if they, their products get chosen. And it's happened before. So thank you, Mr. Clark, for that save. Appreciate it. And lots to celebrate in our schools.
Okay, so Mr. Stevens, we have our treasurer and investment update.
All right, thank you and good evening. Tonight we have the general fund update for the month through February of 2024. We'll be beginning general fund cash balance of $98.3 million, receipts of $5.1 million, disbursements of $11.4 million for an ending general fund cash balance of $91.9 million, of which approximately $91.1 million is invested in a mix of treasury bills, insured cash sweep, and money market accounts. A couple of notes of interest, if you look up in the cash coming in for receipts, we have the Smart Schools Bond Act. It was our first submission. It took anywhere from 9 to 12 months for that money to come to us. So that was all the smart locks in that capital work that was done across the district. We still have one more submission to do there for about $1.6 million, and also some refund from the special aid fund. So you don't always typically see such large dollar amounts, but that's because of all of our federal grants. That general fund cash is loaning the federal special aid fund cash until we're able to get that grants on the reimbursement process. As it relates to revenues and expense, trending similar to prior year, we're at about $109 million of revenue and 81.9 of expense, which are going to continue to close throughout the rest of the fiscal year. And that's an update for February.
Yeah, and I usually remind folks, if you're watching from home or want to go home and look it up, that information is under the treasurer's report, which is under 7, the consent calendar. Okay, so now we move on to our presentations.
Wonderful partners from Campus Construction. Brian Belair will be here. It's been a couple months, but looking forward to hearing how we're doing and moving along in 2019 CIP.
Excellent. And in keeping with the president and the superintendent, I have a brief update as well. So we have the 2019 capital project update for March. Where's Kevin to make this thing work? There we go. All right, first up, we have the budget slide. Again, it outlines 1A, 1B, the finishes project, and we're going to talk about the 1.7 in funds available for construction later on. Overall, the project is coming to a close, both 1A and 1B. We have, as you can see here, $5,274 left in contingency, and we've drained the allowance to 0. Overall, as an update, the high school is complete, and at 1B, we're chasing just some commissioning and warranty work at Northside and Dudley and Joanna Perrin. High school finishes. This is going to go on through, and we got some pictures for you at the end. This is going to go on through the summer months, and we can outline a few of those. Smart schools. Matt gave an update, 1A. Overall, Smart Schools is complete, both Phase 1 and Phase 2. We've got the reimbursement for Phase 1, and like Matt stated, Phase 2 has been submitted, or will be submitted. Will be, eventually, soon. Project schedule update, again, 1A is complete. High school finishes project, we'll go through some photos here. We got some photos that kind of explain why the terrazzo takes so long, because it has really, gone through 2 summers, basically. And 1B, again, the update we touched on at Northside and Dudley. So, to the fun stuff. High school terrazzo. So this is right outside in 512. Some of the products that they put down first, you see those strips that are there that make the arch. Because it's 2 colors, they have to pour those colors separately. And the first piece that comes down, we're going to see, so they put a treatment for moisture first. That has to dry and cure. Then they put a fiber material, which you saw in the intermediate hallway down here, up between December break and April break. Between February break and April break. And then after that, they come in and put the zinc strips. So we got a little bit of a sequence for you guys to see. There it is with both colors and it polished. Here's the new recessed walk-off mat right outside of 512 here in the vestibule. And here, this is the Epiflex. This keeps the terrazzo from cracking because it is, if Aaron was here, a 40 to 50 year material. 40 years, Troy, 40? All right, Troy says 40. So again, it's to bridge that and stabilize the substrate. So over April break, we came in, they come through, they epoxy in the zinc strips. Then they pour the separate colors. Ignore the guy texting on the phone on the grinder. He's actually just selecting his music to cover up the noise of the grinder. So they go through and they do a series of sanding and polishing. So currently out there, it is buffed down and sanded down. It's not polished quite yet. So this is a good example of sanded versus polished. So that's looking down that central corridor. Just a few pictures of Joanna Perrin tech space that's complete.
Really quick before you go on, and Bob can probably answer this too. There's probably, besides Troy, Bob has amazing expertise too. How many terrazzo workers are there in New York State? Right.
Do we know?
It's a very limited pool.
Right. So I mean, I know we talked about the time and it took a long time, but you're also dealing with a supply demand issue, and it's a very unique trade. So if anyone's out there who's looking to get into a trade, we need people.
Is that a CTE BOCES program we need to propose?
It's a poured epoxy flooring. So if you go right outside here and you look down, that's the terrazzo flooring.
And it's also a sustainable material because, once you put it in, it's there and it's made of natural materials. So a lot of good things about it, but I appreciate the patience. I know, Bob, and you and your team and staff and students have to navigate it. So thought it'd be worth pointing out.
Yeah, great, thanks. Joanna Perrin, again, a few of the text-based final pictures. This is the classroom in the center. And another shot. This is some change order casework for a very difficult principal over at Northside.
A principal who knows what they want, all right?
She's got plenty of outlets in her office, I'll tell you that. It's like mission control in there.
Plug in all her energy.
So currently, Fairport High School, the art rooms, this project is out to bid. It bids the 26th formally. We'll be coming back to this board in the month of May and making a recommendation. The funds for this are coming from the leftover funds from the capital project. So we have roughly 1.7. So when we meet again, we'll come with recommendations, and then after that, develop a budget that shows basically just the art room project and create a contingency line for that, because it's going to need a contingency line as well.
So when we put this all out and it goes out to the vote, we include things that could be extras like this in the seeker application process?
Yeah, these things are covered in the seeker application process. If you, within any capital project, oftentimes you're actually reducing the project down to what you feel the reasonable budget is, but still covering pieces like this to be able to go forward at the end of a project should there be any leftover funds. And because this is general reconstruction work within a building and classroom, it is covered within seeker.
That's awesome. So we had some cost savings and we get a little extra.
So could you review that timeline again? Because, we
Right.
I may make a recommendation to have this a workshop topic for May or June, the latest, but probably May. But
Okay.
does that sound like you're needing some discussion and some understanding of what we're trying to do if we're going to be giving some different, I think it'd be worth a presentation just
Absolutely.
to go
So
through.
typically the bids would be due on April 26th. We come through, we vet the contractors, we develop a recommendation, and to get the contractor started, that's when we initiate the recommendation to the board so that they can get contracts and start the work. With us starting in summertime, that timeline is
It's
compressed.
crunched. Yep.
So
So we'll make sure that we share exactly what's going in there based upon what we've developed with our user groups.
Yep.
Thank you.
And just a reminder, these are the two art rooms that we are doing. There's a rendering up top. The next two slides are basically just floor plans of the latest design, which is currently out to bid. We do have some alternates in there for some flooring, which would be terrazzo in the classroom or an epoxy, much like you saw at JP Tech. Just a little bit easier to clean with some of the materials that they use in the art room. Some of the common themes, and jump in here, Troy. So on the right, you see a floor plan, and on the left, it's those elevations looking in that direction. One of the common themes was they needed a place to put their stuff. They needed storage. So over a series of multiple meetings, we've landed here. Specialties, we got jewelry making in one room, polishing.
Drying racks, spray booths, you name it. The two spaces that we are renovating, I feel like everything that they wanted that can actually fit in there, we've got it covered.
Again, I think
It's very flexible, layout and furniture, storage solutions.
it'll be appropriate as we finalize it and get some clear drawings so the board can see it up
Absolutely.
close and, be a part of that process. So thank you.
And again, just the last room here. Any questions?
No time lapse?
He's
It's
videoed
a tough
out.
thing. It would have been the guy like this. On
Yes,
Okay,
thank
for the art
you.
rooms, for the art rooms.
Yep, so we will add it to our list. And I know we've talked about it before, hoping that there would be funds available, so it's exciting to see it become a real thing. Okay. And now we are going to have our 2024-25 budget presentation. I might need to be replaced.
Have a good night, guys.
I think I'm going to begin with thank you, and I hope I'm throwing thank yous throughout this process, and I know I'm going to end with thank you as well, because it does take an incredible amount of resources and a great focused team to build a budget that I said is developed throughout the year. Thank you, Matt Stevens, your team with Chris Eckert and Monica Shannon, really making sure our spreadsheets are accurate and all the revenues and expenditures are accounted for, that are aligned with so many school-related business responsibilities that go with building a budget. I'd also like to thank district office leaders, Dr. T, Doug, and of course Matt, and our building leaders, who really helped provide information so we can make sound and informed decisions throughout the board process. Our administrators are close to our teachers and our other educators who are on the ground floor, whether you're an essential worker, paraprofessional, or in the classroom. And we really try to stay close to them and listen and learn from them as we go through the budget process. So I'm really proud of the work that's been accomplished here. And tonight I'll be making a recommendation to the board to adopt the 24-25 school budget. Talking about very important parts of a budget, which include the budget goals. You can't really have a good budget without clarity, and I think our Board of Education does an amazing job with that. And I want to say thank you to our Board of Education for giving us that clarity. Again, that we start immediately after May. If we continue to have successful budgets, we hit the ground running on the next day to talk about the next budget process. Enrollment, we're going to be talking about and how that impacts what we're trying to accomplish. And this will be a 3-part budget. This recommendation will include the program, the administration, and capital pieces. And then Mr. Stevens is going to talk about how are we going to manage supporting that through revenues and a voter proposition, which is definitely applicable this school year. Like I said, it starts with a clear idea of what we're trying to accomplish. This budget that I'll be presenting tonight has information about our strategic or our school improvement initiatives, including the development of the universal pre-K. This Board of Education for many years, as it's evolved, and now this newer Board of Education really has prioritized UPK, and there'll be dollars associated with expanding our programming there. Thank you. Allocating resources to support and maximize student learning for multi-tiered systems of support. We've heard about panorama databases. We've heard about buying text, wit and wisdom, 95%. Aligning curriculum pieces. Dr. T came in and talked to the board tonight about some curriculum management pieces that are incredibly important. And of course, giving students the same exact experiences from what our community expects, what our students expect, and what our families expect of our schools, having access to our amazing programming that we so frequently gush over and are proud of here in Fairport. So thank you, board, for giving us that clarity for fiscal sustainability. It's at the forefront of the budget goals. It also includes investing in modern, environmentally sustainable and safe facilities. When we're presenting this budget, we can point to those pieces. Our enrollment, since I've been here, has been on a downward trend. Anywhere from 0.5% to 2.5% to 3% a year, and you see that you'll the percent change from 2021 and 22, you're almost at a 3% decrease in student enrollment. We've projected this. This is not a surprise. One of the main reasons is people don't leave our community. We're learning. We've talked to enrollment specialists. We have long-standing community members who just stay in our community for, Canal Town, for music fests, and all the wonderful things that we experience. Fairport Electric, right? I mean, that's another piece of it. I mean, the reasons people don't, and when they do move, they're not having, a lot of families are not having more than 2 or 3, right? And I know there are exceptions, respectfully, as well, but many families are moving into 1 to 2. And that's fine too, but that's just the changing demographics of what we're seeing in our community here. So we're impacted by declining enrollment, as many of our Monroe County counterparts are, and you'll see that class sizes, are different than what they were, when I was a principal, close to 20 years ago, right? I mean, when we were graduating 500 plus, but we predicted this moment in this day, and we're watching it carefully and building budgets with that in mind. One of the major things that we definitely keep in mind here in Fairport are mindful of our class sizes. We're really proud of the fact it's a pearl. It's something that our community expects, that our staff benefits from, our students benefit from, the connections that are made in the classrooms, and you'll see that this budget continues to meet those standards. Again, with decline in enrollment, there's natural attrition. I think, Mr. Loff, how many total retirements did we have?
We have 17 teacher retirements this year.
Right. And through staffing analysis, we're going to, through just natural attrition, go down, as the chart says, to -7 FTE. So we won't be hiring some positions that we're losing. And that's just trying to be responsible, trying to make sure that we're offering students and our community the same experiences, same programming, and we're able to do that by also realize and absorb some FTE. You'll also see that in grades 7 through 12, class sizes have and will not change. There are going to be anomalies, of course, when there's capstone programs, safety needs, space limitations. We're going to have lower class sizes than what's up there, right? And just by we have an amazing art programming. Some of those classes are a little smaller because it's a specialized programming, and we happily do that. And we appreciate the grace the board extends in allowing us to make those exceptions so we can meet students' needs. The cost of doing business, that's the one thing that I think that I'm constantly reminded of. We are a business, right? And we have responsibilities, and we are happy to honor those responsibilities. The New York State retirement contributions in 2024 and 25, ERS, which we have about, I say, Mr. Loft, we have about 500 ERS. That's our non-certified yet very highly essential workers who do so many things behind the scenes. We're obligated to pay into their retirement system 13% to 15%. That's the percentage increase, and you'll know that that's greater than 2% increase, and that's going to have an impact on our tax cap exclusion, which I know Mr. Stevens is going to talk about in a little bit. And the TRS, which is our certified employers like our teachers and our administrators, that's another employee benefit line that we're responsible for, and that has increased from 9.76 to 10.2%. And all of the line items, you're going to see a consistent 3.57% overall increase, because it's just not the health care, it's the health and dental, it's the workman's compensation, it's other benefits like FICA Med, unemployment, disability, etc. So again, we're honored, we have obligations, we try to recruit and retain and be competitive as well, and the board has been extremely responsive to those pieces, but employee benefits is embedded into each one of the three parts of the budget. This is our community pride. And this slide, I think I'm most proud of. I'm going to add Spark Lab for my next presentation, but that's alive and well. But that's like a little rose for our school. And in fact, many school districts around the county are tapping on Fairport's door because they're not calling it the Spark Lab because that's what we call, right? We've made national presentations on the Spark Lab. Again, our class sizes are to be envied. Never perfect, by the way, never perfect. I'll be the first one to say that someone has a different thought and feeling about it, but when you're looking at a K-12 programming, I would put our class sizes up with the best of them. Performing arts, graphic arts, we just saw the art show, our music program. You should have seen the parking lot. You could only see hoods of cars in the parking lot. They were coming for our program, right? People out of, like, I saw some community members from another community, and they were saying, these are so engaging. Thank you for making them safe and welcoming facilities. Really proud of that. That's part of our programming. Mental health, the Board of Education prioritizes mental health. We have over 30 mental health professionals. And that's a very intentional investment that the board has made because if you don't have the heart right, learning is extremely challenging. And I know our board sees that investment as incredibly important. And we can go on and on, but these pearls are what the community expects. It's what our students speak to, and they talk about opportunities. 110 electives at Fairport High School students have an opportunity to. Now, we don't give them all at once, but they have the opportunity, and it's based upon supply and demand and those class sizes that we talked about. 140 courses offered at Fairport High School. Again, this is the culminating place where our students go, and this is where they received advanced placement courses, Syracuse University Project advanced courses, MCC partnerships, SUNY Oswego, and of course Genesee Community College. Commitments with BOCES as well to round out and support all learners. So really proud about the program. This is our story, and I'm staying on this one because I think that, at 75% of our budget, we get a lot of value. This is a major component of the three-part budget, and you'll see staff development. That went up 23%, or $120,000 in our total budget. And this BOCES services related to school improvement. We've done a lot of work with curriculum management, access and equity. We're doing school improvement when we are talking about our consolidation. There's costs associated with that, and the board is preparing for that, and that's why you see that increase. I'm not going to go over every single one, but I'm just going to go over the ones that are noticeable in my mind. It's special programming. That's our continuum of special ed services that are recommended by the CSE. So that's bound by SED law. So you'll see increases in there. So we can continue to meet our students' needs, happily, by the way, and with so much positive energy and passion to be the best for all of our students on the continuum of special ed services that we provide. You'll see that another major component is the loss of stimulus funding. So we received, Mr. Stevens-ish, about three federal grant, how many years? Over 3 years in total was $9 million, right? That money's, thank you, put you on the spot like that. $9 million, and that was money given to us as a result of COVID. Well, those dollars are gone, and over the past several years, we knew this day was gonna come. We've been able to absorb it and to continue the program to support student services. Again, you'll see slight increases there as a result of the loss of stimulus funding. And I said that our ELL, our English language learners, loss of stimulus funding, we lost about $70,000 there, so we had to incorporate that into the budget. And again, we have private school placements, Hillside, Norman Howard, Ville of Hope, and those costs are in the excess of over $300,000. So these are obligations that we have to fulfill to support our students, and we run it through the CSE process, and that's why you'll see, in that, again, special programs, I apologize, jumping back up there, 7.4%. Okay, and you'll see a negative there. It's worth highlighting, 0.605. And that's good news, and that speaks to recruiting and retaining bus drivers. We're decreasing our reliance on contract services, so we're owning more of our routes. That would include routes to Hillside, Norman Howard, or if we have to transfer students or to private schools, they're mostly in Fairport school buses, which we're happy to do. And you'll see that the overall program budget is 3.71% to do all these wonderful things that we were talking about. The second component is our administrative budget. That's where you'll see the community relations office, my office, the Board of Education has a line item in there, which you'll see a decrease in because of consolidation into a district clerk with Sarah Driscoll and who was my secretary and now the board clerk. So they realized the savings there, and all the resources and partnerships that we have with BOCES. You'll see again that's minus 22% reduction of a board clerk. Right. The board does not get paid. It's definitely worth noting. They get their payment in the joy and satisfaction of serving our community, and that's pretty much the best way I can understand it, because you do so many wonderful things thinking about our schools, but no one is thinking about them and investing your time. So just wanted to acknowledge that. Other central services, you'll see a $573 increase, or 23.54% increase, and that's we have a reliance and commitment with BOCES. You heard about safety and security. We talked about threat assessment, workplace violence, cameras, doors, locks, safety. We have a safety and security team that is in that budget line. So that's why you see an increase there. Instructional administrative support. You'll see more safety and security in there because that's where we put our guardians or our sentries that are housed in our buildings during the school day. And you'll see the administrative salaries and our instructional deputy salary in that as well. And within all these lines, there's salaries, supplies, equipment, and contractual commitments. Right. So, when salaries increase, you'll see that based upon collective bargaining agreements. Supplies are increasing. As you all know, when you go to Staples, right, that it gets passed on to us, and when we talk about equipment is used as well. So the overall increase in that line is 7.31%. Again, the administrative budget, it's 11% of our complete and total budget, with Mr. Stevens we'll be talking about in a little bit. Capital budget, this is my favorite slide because it has these numbers that in all of, the depth and breadth of our school district, 8 school buildings, 1.2 million square feet, 4 administrative support buildings, and 3 acres of grounds to manage. And it takes real people to do that work, to make sure that our grounds are kept in safe fashion. And I'm proud of the work that our crews do to make our students shine. The capital budget, the operation and maintenance and security of facilities, again, salaries, equipment costs, supply costs, that's all part of the operation, maintenance, and security. The equipment has increased significantly, like I think President Bellows Pacer talked about, to go purchase a car. That costs dollars. It's not cars, it's heavy machinery and equipment to do all the great things, from cutting grass to plowing snow to making sure that we have the right resources and tools for our essential workers. And that's an 8% increase that you'll see in the operations, maintenance, and facilities component. Bus purchases, okay? Bus purchases, there's been an increased cost in buses. You'll see a 13.11% increase overall. And if you take a look at our bus purchases, The total cost is $2.4 million for those 9 buses. Then we're gonna trade in buses. How many buses are we gonna trade in, Mr. Stevens? 9 buses. So we're gonna get about $40,000 for those trade-ins, right? And that's gonna bring that total to that $2.3 million. And then the funding sources will be from the general fund budget of 1.7 million, and we're gonna be bringing money in from the reserve. And I think that's important that the board want to offset some of those costs. We'll be bringing in $620,000 for a total cost of $2.392 million. That's how we balance that side of it. Within there is an EV purchase, but we are looking to get a grant. And if that grant does not come through, we are going to take the $525,000 out of this as we move through the budget process, and will not be buying one without the full the grant dollars that we applied for. Thank you, Mr. Stevens, for delineating all that. Hope I explained it clearly enough. And again, you'll see the benefits there. Again, that 3.57% isn't all of the budget lines here that we're talking about for the 3-part budget. And then you see debt service, right? It's principal and interest on capital project debt that is coming due. You'll see the debt service bands and the interfund transfer to debt service and capital, right? Those are our obligations. And later on, Mr. Stevens is going to talk about how that is impacting the revenue side and the actual tax levy side of the budget process. But you'll see a 12.89% increase from the capital portion of our budget. There is that slide, I apologize. And you'll see total expenditures of program, administrative, and capital, 5.36% increase, which is the number that we've been sharing for the past several presentations. Now, Mr. Stevens is going to come forward, unless you have any questions about any of the expenditures. I know you've heard it and they've been updated on many different occasions, but if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Mr. Stevens is going to talk about the revenue pieces.
All right, thank you, Mr. Provenzano. So the next piece we'll talk about is how do we pay for all of the expense side of the budget that we have. So first off, just a quick brief summary in terms of the allocation of our revenues. You can see the largest 2 pieces of revenue the district receives is related to property taxes and state aid. The 2 of those make up close to 90% of our overall revenue. And then we have sales tax from Monroe County. We have our assigned fund balance and assigned general fund reserves. You can see those are 2 large pieces within the budget. Those are basically funds left over from the prior school year assigned to be utilized as a revenue type source the following school year. And then the reserves are funds of which are in our savings accounts for specific purposes, such as our teacher retirement system payments, employee retirement system, workers' compensation, tax certiorari reserve, et cetera. And then our debt service fund transfer. So that is a dollar amount coming over from our debt service fund to help pay for interest due on our bond anticipation note. Here's a really quick summary. As we prepared this budget for 24-25, we're working off of the governor's executive budget proposal from January. And this has a few key points related to the governor's proposal, the biggest piece being foundation aid, in which the school district budgets for. That's our largest piece of operating aid, unrestricted operating aid that we receive as a school district. And then other pieces such as expense-based aids, transportation BOCES, building aid, you'll see those throughout the budget as well that are help paying for the expenses of which we have. And those are driven based off of expenses. So as we look back at the expense side, you saw about a $1.7 million increase in debt service costs related to short-term debt as well as long-term debt. And on the revenue side, you'll see an increase in state aid, and there's a state building aid increase of $1.7 million that's helping pay off that increase in debt payments for next year. So here's a summary of our state aid revenue projected for 2024-25. And our foundation aid, about $597,000 increase here. Governor's proposal is $151,000 increase right now, but we did have some high impact tutoring aid that was not restricted for 24-25 at the time of budget preparation last year. It was linked within the foundation aid proposal to be something driven off of expenses. So ultimately, when the budget was approved and adopted by the state, that money was no longer linked to a restricted aid. It was a general operating aid. We would have had some type of expense on the expense side of the budget that those funds would have needed to be covered and justified with for submission. But again, came through as unrestricted. So we have that 448,000 plus the 151 that's showing our projected increase for next year. And then transportation, BOCES, and building aid here, you see a $2.4 million increase. Of that's $1.7 million is related to building aid. So that's helping pay for the expense side of the budget for the new debt payments coming on. And then our excess cost aids, those are aids related to expenses for students in our special education programming. So it's high cost aid that school districts receive back. There's an expected local contribution, and then we're able to submit and report student costs for reimbursement the following year. And then also within the aidable material, urban suburban tuition aid and other, I'm going to focus on the other because we see about a $400,000 increase. That's related to the grant. So right now we're budgeting that as an other state aid. It's applied for through a grant with the Dormitory Authority of the state of New York. Depending on how the funds come in, it could be reported as another state aid. It may be a miscellaneous revenue. Right now we're budgeting it as an other state aid. Has to be reflected somewhere in our budget to be able to account for that. The drop is really related to our enrollment changes and how aidable materials are aided. So that's why it nets out under that $400,000 overall with the other aids that are taken into account. This is just a chart and graph of our foundation aid history. So the past 3 years, we've talked about this a couple times at the meetings, but the past 3 years, the state phased in the foundation aid according to the formula and law. So we saw 3 large increases, of which our last one was this current year we're in, 2023-24. Now that the aid has been funded according to the formula, we're starting to see a little bit lesser of an increase proposed for the following year. Next, we'll talk about the property tax revenue. Here is I won't go through each line, but more commonly known as the 2% tax cap. The actual tax levy increase can be more or less than 2%, depending on exclusions within the formula. So schools are able to exclude the local share of debt, the local share of capital payments, such as for buses, and we do have an exclusion for the pension system % increase for the employees retirement system. Any amount greater than 2% increase, which is 0.1%, times the salaries, the reported salaries, is then part of that exclusion to that piece. Just a couple key pieces at the bottom. Budgets that are proposing a tax levy increase that is at or below the cap only requires that 50% plus 1 voter approval, of which is what we will be going out at for 2024-25. Any budgets looking to exceed the cap require that supermajority or greater than 60%. Here's a look at the formula and how that flows through for Fairport. You would see this no matter which school district you live in. It's a similar formula, just different numbers depending on the school district. So the 2% cap is really middle of the way down the page where it says of allowable levy growth factor. It's the lesser of 2% or the growth in the consumer price index. CPI growth was over 4% for 2020, the previous year. So it's the previous year growth, which means the cap for school districts on that piece of the formula is 2%. Like Mr. Provenzano mentioned, we know costs are increasing. We've seen paper products increasing for our custodial maintenance teams, the cost of products for that, instructional materials, all those different pieces going up by sometimes greater than CPI growth. And then we have the cap here within the formula. Down towards the bottom, there's a $14,000 $900 exclusion related to the employee retirement system. That's where that calculation comes with the 0.1% times our non-certificated salaries. So overall, a change from the prior year of 2.83% on the tax levy. Again, a portion of this is related to our oncoming capital debt. We do have the building aid coming in the following year as well to help pay for that. But even through the formula, when we have a tax-based growth factor in the town of Perrington of greater than 1%, or greater than the multipliers greater than 1, that's growth in our tax base. So then this is accounted for within the formula. The 2% growth is accounted for in the formula among the other exclusions that we have. You can see the capital piece increases about $300,000 to $400,000 for our capital debt. Back when the project was voted on, there was a communicated impact to the taxes that we had throughout the project. We utilized some reserves to help keep the borrowing lessened, to help that impact after our building aid comes in. Actually, I believe we're keeping it less than originally projected, understanding budgets and the fiscal responsibility as we move through proposed budgets.
And Matt, just to clarify that the capital improvement project that's coming on the books, that's the 2019 project?
Correct.
So
That's
the
the
project
2019.
we just saw that they're finishing up and all the great work that was done at the high school and all of that, this is the paying of that.
Correct. And oftentimes it can take 2 to 3 years before you'll start to see the first impact on the budget, because it takes time to get through the construction before. And sometimes if we have capital reserves we're using, we don't need cash right away. So we really try to plan and work the borrowings in as far out as possible. So another good example is that project that we just voted on in the fall, 2023. We won't see that come on budget for a couple of years, especially since we have assigned so much for capital building reserve usage. It'll help us with the cash flow. This is just a look at the historical information and 2024-25 info in terms of budget increase percent-wise, tax levy, and tax rate. As Mr. Provenzano presented, budget increase for 24-25 at 5.36%. Again, a piece of that's related to the debt. So without debt, it lowers that. It would be a lesser percent increase, but try not to talk about that too much, because then we wouldn't see the revenue on the revenue side. So really there's the revenue that's helping out with that budget to budget increase. Tax levy and tax rate are projected at the same right now at 2.83% for next year. However, the tax rate, you can see historically, has typically come in at a percent increase less than the tax levy percent increase. And that's because once that final tax base is determined over the summer, and that's how the tax rate is calculated, generally it's been less because we've had some growth in our tax base. So any new builds, increase in assessments, it has that inverse relationship on our tax rate. And here's a projection for 2024-25. Again, we're using the 23-24 assessed valuation because that's the known information we have today. Like I mentioned, growth in the tax assessment base will lower the tax rate increase. Same with the projected rate itself. So it would lower that projected rate. Oh, I haven't. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Top line. I'm following my lines a little differently here, though. So, yeah, 68-cent projected increase in the rate, or 2.83%, and then how that equates to a $200,000 home. Using $200,000 home, it's easy to divide or multiply when the numbers are even numbers. So if it's a $100,000 or $300,000 home, it's half of that on top of the number itself. One piece here, if we remember a couple of years ago, just before COVID, there was a planned reassessment in the town of Perrington that it did not move forward. The equalization rate, just kind of drawing attention to that, that is how New York State measures the level of assessment for municipalities. So right now, the tentative equalization rate for next year for the town of Perrington is 62%. What that means is that according to the state and the measure of the town's level of assessment in the municipality, that homes are assessed at 62% versus 100% of value across the state. So once reassessments take place at some point in the future, it basically just equalizes the tax rate for the town and the school district.
back in 2018-19, there was a large reassessment, and we had a drop in the tax rate, so it went down over 4%. So at the point in time when reassessments take place, then the tax rate itself, what they would call a full value true tax rate, could drop below $20 as a whole. So it's just how the funds are distributed, the tax levy is distributed. The school district's not going to collect any more funds than what our tax levy is proposed within the budget. It just is how the money gets distributed across the town. So here's a total revenue budget for 2024-25, putting together the state aid, the tax levy, and the other pieces such as sales tax and our assigned fund balance and reserve pieces. Overall increase of 8.1 million, which matches the 5.36% increase on the expense side of the budget. And again, the tax levy is compliant with the tax cap, requiring just that 50% plus one voter approval on the budget. Won't spend a lot of time on this, but like Brett mentioned, that there were some federal stimulus monies. The last funding source for that is the American Rescue Plan, and those funds are coming to an end and expiring for the district. So these are what we use the funds on. And then within the expense side of the budget, those are now reflected as budget items. Here's a quick look and summary of the allocation of our fund balance and reserves. You can see some historical numbers here. And then for 2024-25, how we're proposing to use our fund balance and reserve accounts or savings accounts. So there are certain reserves that are allowed to be used for operating expenses, and that's what you see up here as we assign those to the general fund revenue side of the budget. So an increase of $1 million in the proposed assigned fund balance. Those are funds left over at the end of 23-24 school year projected to be assigned to next year. So giving back to taxpayers' community the following budget year, and helps us manage that revenue side of the budget. There were some one-time revenues coming in 2023-24 that are being assigned to basically assist with 24-25 revenue pieces. Then our transfer from the debt service fund. These are funds coming over that can be used to pay for the local share of debt. We had premium contributions, premium received on a short-term borrowing, the bond anticipation note. Basically, when a lender provides the funds, they will provide some premium cash up front to help lower the net overall interest rate. We utilize those funds to pay off the interest the following year, so a year out when it's due. And then our tax tertiary reserve, unemployment reserve, those are used to pay for tax refunds and unemployment expenses. We'd only end up utilizing those reserves up to the expenses that we would have. And then our retirement contribution reserves, this is for both our employee retirement system and teacher retirement system. And again, proposing to use another $1 million from a budgeted standpoint for 2024-25 to help support those costs that we have on the expense side. And this is just how it plays out in terms of our budget expense, our revenues, and then our reserve usage. So here you can see that we have the balanced budget between the budget and then the revenue plus the fund balance and reserves discussed on the previous slide. As a percent of budget, you can see it's about 5.19%. That would be our reserves, excludes the debt service fund piece, but that is those general fund reserves and fund balance as a percent of budget. Those are pieces as we look at long-term, we project and look to see how long it can be sustained, because once we rely on the reserves and fund balance, it's something we have to take in consideration as we develop and build each budget. And then coming to the end of the presentation, there will be on the ballot 2 voter propositions, one of which is to authorize to appropriate and spend from our existing capital bus reserve, and that helps us cover and allocate funds due to the increase in cost of buses, as well as if we look year to year, we have 9 large buses being replaced next year versus the year before it was 6 large and 3 smaller buses. So our costs can vary due to the type of bus that we're replacing as well. And then because the capital bus reserve that we have is exceeded its timeline. So it can new funds can no longer be placed into the reserve because of the expiration date of the reserve. Reserves are set up and approved to have both a funding limit and a date limit. So this is a proposal to be able to, proposition to be able to create and fund a capital bus purchase reserve for future years to help with our bus costs and those increasing costs that we have as a school district in the vehicles.
And Matt, this proposition to spend money from the capital campaign is because by law, voters have to approve spending out of this reserve, correct?
Correct. Yep. The capital bus reserve is a capital reserve by law. It has to be voted on to be able to create and establish, as well as expend the monies out of the reserve. Great question. And it basically equals the cost of 3 of the 72 passenger buses. This is just the legal language related to each that would be seen on the ballot. So again, it has the limit and existence of the reserve. I'll turn it over to Mr. Provenzano to talk through the next couple slides.
Thanks, Mr. Stevenson. Again, the purpose of this slide, again, is to show the expansive nature of our process. We're looking to ultimately have 12 touches and opportunities to have people here, community members here, the extent of our process, and ultimately have a final voice in it. There's the May 7th public hearing, Fairport High School, room 512, at 6:30. That's right here. That's on May 7th. And we added on May 8th, meet the candidate nights, Fairport High School, at 6 o'clock here in 512. There'll be an opportunity to meet the candidates that will be running for 2 Board of Education seats that are up for election. We want our community to come out on May 21st to do that at Chouanapara Middle School from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. There'll be a budget vote and the board elections. We hope the community is excited about the budget and expresses their voice, as they frequently do. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you for your...
Matt, just a quick one. I know we've talked about this in past ones, but just kind of to put a fine point on it, because of the budget situation in Albany and the, what did the governor call it? The conceptual potential framework for a budget, whatever. Anyway, so when the final budget comes in, there's been a lot of indications that foundation aid could be increased for all districts on that. So how does that affect the budget if when the final state budget comes back in, we get more foundation aid than the governor proposed?
So it'll help, should the number come in more than in the governor's executive proposal, it'll help us reduce our reliance on these reserves and fund balance. Awesome. So that's a key piece as we look to try to come to a balanced budget for presentation. Looking to assign more of the reserves because we do have them. These are known numbers and information. But should that number come in, it will then help us reduce this actual reliance in 2024-25. So the budget numbers will remain the budget numbers. Mm-hmm. It will just be how the actual numbers end up.
Like the high impact tutoring for this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Thank you, Matt.
Hear me, but just to go over the proposition again, those are diesel buses. Those are not electric buses.
Correct,
right?
Diesel buses.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we're moving on to our board discussion action items. And first up, we just had some time for questions. I'm looking again. And the first thing up is our 2024-25 school budget. And I do need a motion to approve the 2024-25 school budget in the amount of 159, 847, and 155 million. Oh, sorry, Brian, Jan. Any other discussion? I feel like we've had a lot. Okay, all in favor? Aye. 7-0. And next up, I need a motion to approve the 2025 property tax report card, and it is attached.
So moved.
Lisa, Peter, any discussions? Okay, all in favor? Aye. I know this is one of our favorites, field trip requests. Can I have a motion that the board approves the attached field trip requests? Mary Caitlin, Nicole, any discussions?
Ultimately, how many students were able to go on the robotics world competition? Do we know? 33.
According to the sheet, at least.
Did I miss that? Sorry.
Yeah, my understanding was it was open to anybody who wanted to go. There were some families who chose not to just because of the numbers of
But it
days
was
missed.
the choice, right? Everybody could be accommodated if
Yeah.
they wanted.
Yeah, and I think it was, did you say 33?
I think that's the
33.
Yeah.
That's my understanding, and funds to support anyone who couldn't afford it but wanted to go.
Fantastic.
Yeah, wish them well. I can't wait to hear updates as they progress throughout the week.
Yes, very exciting.
Absolutely. All in favor? Aye, 7-0. Fundraiser requests. I need a motion that the board approve the attached fundraiser requests.
So moved.
Brian,
Second.
Lisa, all in favor? Aye, 7-0. Now, our other very busy committee, our policies. So I need a motion that the Board of Education approves the first reading of the following policies: 3420, 6121, 6540, 7420, 7612, 7613, 7614, 7615, and 7701.
Second.
Mary Caitlin, Brian, any discussion, comments?
Question, mostly curiosity. 7612 and 7615 is the reason why they need to be separate. As I was reading 7612, I'm like, where's least restrictive environment? Of course, it's down in 7615, but it seems like they could just really be one policy here.
I think the recommendation was because these are pretty much grounded in rules and regulations, ed law, it was recommended by me to just keep them as is, separate, just because of the recommendation from SEDs and the legal pieces surrounding it.
Just makes it easier from legality side.
Yeah, and if you look around, yeah, at the bottom, yeah.
I see them. But
A lot of times, anything related to special education, it's,
nuance?
Yeah.
Is that the word?
Sorry. Our amazing special education directors also worked with Ann McGinnis, the special education attorney, every time they've done any of our policies. And I hear you. I love condensing. I do.
I know, that's why I was a little surprised.
I do.
It's
I
true.
really.
it is true.
Can confirm.
But yeah, so if it's like that, it's because they made me.
Yep, and I think we talked about as a board perhaps having some, having some PD along the lines of why there are so many. I know, sorry. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye, 7-0. And now we're on to our second reads. So we have seen these before, but I need a motion that the Board of Education approves the second reading of the following policies: 3001, 3110, 5130, 5140, 5660, 5662, 5731, 5740, 6213, 6550, 7554, and 8310. Brian? Mary Caitlin? Questions, comments here? Okay. All in favor? Aye. 7-0. Okay, and next up we have our Audit and Finance Committee Charter. So I need a motion that the Board of Education adopts the Audit and Finance Committee Charter as attached. And it is in public comment, or content as well. Mary Caitlin? Nicole? Any comments, questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye, 7-0. Which brings us to personnel, and first up we have instructional. So I need a motion to approve the following instructional staff actions as recommended by the superintendent of schools.
So moved.
Brian? Lisa? Just any comments, questions there? Okay, all in favor? Aye. 7-0. And next up, we have our non-instructional. And I need a motion to approve our non-instructional and civil service actions as recommended by the superintendent of schools. Lisa?
Second?
Mary Caitlin? Any questions, comments?
I'd like to just recognize, I know it's not for me, but recognize two teaching assistants who are incredibly important to our community and culture of our schools. Christina Gates, teaching assistant at FHS, and Carrie Williams, teaching assistant at Martha Brown.
Thank you.
Will be retiring in coming months.
I know. Yes. Congratulations. All in favor?
Sorry, I feel like this isn't the first time recently that I've seen one where today an on-call bus attendant being changed to a bus driver, and I just think that's when we toured transportation, they talked about how we're able to train our own bus drivers, and it seems like that. I would assume that's one of those opportunities where because we can do that in-house, we're able to kind of train up our own bus drivers, and we've seen that impact on the budget as we're able to bring more of our bus drivers from a contract into in-house. So it's just exciting to see those keep coming up, and congrats to that team for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. 7-0. Then we have athletics. I need a motion to approve the following athletic staff actions as recommended by the superintendent of schools. Jan? Peter? Comments, questions?
Update on the track size. It was incredible this year, but the number was astounding.
I think we were talking about 170, and that's why we were looking to add, just out of sheer, making sure that we can account for and make a safe and orderly environment, and give them a quality experience. So, board, you're always so supportive with that too, and you get the importance of making sure we have the right ratios. And I also think it's because of all the excitement around track. 170 athletes
That's
coming
about
up.
40 or 50 growth from last year or something. I don't know. I've seen-
50.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just incredible.
Very fortunate.
And Erica, you were saying another district was so kind to host our home meets
Yeah.
because we've had trouble in the past until our amazing track gets built.
Yeah, I was going to mention it to Fritz because I'm sure he is scheduling and working with schools. So I think most of our home meets are at Penfield. So it's nice. I know we were there last week for I think it was supposed to be our home meet. We'll be there tomorrow. My kids, I shouldn't say me.
You're
I will
running
not
with
be
us.
running.
I think you should.
But yeah, I think we've been lucky. I know last year Rush Henrietta helped us out as well, and we were able to do like our senior night there. So
Huge thank you.
yes.
Huge thank you to other districts for supporting us as
And I do
we grow.
know, that being said, we have also, I think, reciprocated with the baseball and softball, at least last year. I don't know if it's been necessary this year, but I think it's great
all
that.
partners,
I
great
know,
Yeah,
exactly.
great.
Yep. So yeah, lots of runners and jumpers and throwers. Yes.
And
all
my son, who's in 12th grade, was just commented on just out of the blue, how impressed he was with the coaches handling such a huge number of students. So it sounds like I'm glad we're getting them some extra help, but just, props to them for being willing to do that and so enthusiastically and positively supporting so many students.
And they all seem to love it, so it is wonderful. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. 7-0, which leads us to our consent calendar. And I need a motion that the Board of Education approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Mary Caitlin? Nicole? All in favor? Aye. 7-0. Which leads us to our Monroe BOCES 1 annual election administrative budget portion. So we have to actually go through and do motions and then approve each person that will be running for our Monroe County BOCES board. So here we go. And we did read all of this before, just if anyone's at home listening. So I need a motion that the Board of Education cast one vote for the election of Margaret Burns, resident of West Arundecoit Central School District, as a member of the Monroe 1 BOCES Board for a term of office that will begin on July 1st, 2024 and end on June 30th, 2027.
So moved.
Mary Caitlin, Brian, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 7-0. Next up, I need a motion that the Fairport Board of Education cast one vote for the election of Mark, and I'm going to say his name wrong, Kakanovich, resident of the Brighton Central School District, as a member of the Monroe 1 BOCES Board for a term of office which will begin July 1st, 2024 and end on June 30th, 2027.
So moved.
Second.
Lisa, Mary Caitlin, all in favor? Aye, 7-0. And we need a motion that the Board of Education cast one vote for the election of Tom Nespeka, resident of Webster Central School District, as a member of the Monroe 1 BOCES Board for a term of office which begins on July 1st, 2024 and ends on June 30th, 2027. Peter? Oh, sorry, couldn't hear you. Nicole? All in favor? Aye. 7-0. Next up, we need a motion that the Board of Education, Fairport Board of Education, cast one vote for the election of Maureen Knupp, resident of Fairport Central School District, as a member of the Monroe 1 BOCES Board for a term of office which will begin on July 1st, 2024 and end on June 30th, 2027. Brian? Nicole? I jokingly said to Lisa she should have volunteer for Odyssey in the Mind on her resume, so thank you, Maureen. All in favor? Aye. 7-0. And we need a motion that the Fairport Board of Education casts one vote for the election of Nancy Semmel, resident of East Arundecoit Central School District, as a member of the Monroe 1 BOCES Board for a term of office which will begin July 1st, 2024 and end on June 30th, 2027. Brian? Lisa? All in favor? Aye. 7-0. And last up, we need a motion that the Board of Education of the Fairport Central School District votes to approve the proposed Monroe 1 BOCES administrative budget in the amount of $5,820,485 for the 2024-25 fiscal year. That was at the same time. Peter, Brian, all in favor? Aye. And finally, I need a motion. I need a motion to enter into exec session, and we will be covering two different topics, matters pertaining to the, no, three, sorry, did I say two? My eyes are going blurry. Matters pertaining to the employment history of non-collective employees. Invited to attend are the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Doug Laff, Assistant Superintendent of Business, Matt Stevens, and Superintendent of Schools, Brett Provenzano. Topic 2, matters pertaining to the sale, purchasing, and or leasing of district property. Invited to attend is the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Doug Laff, Assistant Superintendent of Business, Matt Stevens, and Superintendent of Schools, Brett Provenzano. Last topic, matters pertaining to the employment history and recommendations related for tenure of individuals in collective bargaining units. Invited to attend are Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Doug Laff, Superintendent of Schools, Brett Provenzano. Brian? Peter, all in favor? Aye. We will be ending the live stream now, and we will enter into and then adjourn following immediately. So you will not be missing anything if you are listening from home. Thank you.